My beloved child, there are nights when the whole city is alight, yet your room remains still as an unbroken lake. It is there that I have read the inkless script of your heart. People often choose by resumes, by loud voices, by widening networks. But I look where no one writes reports at the tenderness of a heart before a whisper. The world praises the visible, but I pay attention to the moment you say yes when no one applauds. That is why among the many who merely heard you were the one who truly listened. You did not close your soul when the call touched the depths reason could not explain. You did not take the detour when my straight path seemed inconvenient. I saw you refuse the soft chair to take the dust-worn shoes. I heard you say, "Your will be done, not in crowded sanctuaries, but in an empty kitchen amid dishes and bills," and in that ordinary place, silent greatness began to sprout. At small crossroads where no camera records you stood for truth, though the price was misunderstanding. On weary days you kept a flickering lamp of prayer in your palm, small but enough to keep you from stumbling. You never mocked slow beginnings. You knew an oak takes years before giving shade, and so does a soul. You did not despise the quiet, for in silence I carved the rhythm for your heart. Others wanted fireworks. I write eternity with the steady fire of the hearth. You ask, why me? Because when no one watched you, held an inward posture open to receive, ready to go. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. That ancient word has never aged. It explains why my choices often startle. And if doubt still lingers, remember, I do not seek the flawless. I choose the one who trembles before the holy, so that my power may be made perfect in weakness. There are tears you once hid, thinking them unworthy of notice. Yet I have not lost a single one. Each tear marks a coordinate for my angels to visit, a dot on the map of grace, leading you toward unopened doors. When you held your sigh to pray for another, that prayer did not vanish like smoke. It rose as fragrance before me. You are not forgotten. I sign no contracts on paper. I sign with memory that does not fade. When you stayed faithful on barren ground, I inscribed it into a history invisible to human eyes but confirmed by time. Therefore, do not measure your worth by noise. Measure it by the depth of your whispered yes in the dark. In its appointed season, that hidden seed will break forth. Then you will understand why you were chosen, not because you were worthy, but because you were willing. Not because you were great, but because you were empty. Only the empty vessel can be filled. I know the days when you opened your hand, though the purse was nearly bare. That was the lesson of multiplication no economics textbook could teach. I saw when you chose gentleness over a cutting remark. That was the lesson of meek power that violence cannot fathom. I heard your intercession for the one who hurt you. That was the lesson of true freedom, for the forgiver unlocks his own chains first. These things seem too small for notice, yet heaven misses none of them. Invisible seeds always sprout in deep soil. When you choose not to react from instinct, you make room for me to act. And when I act, I redefine outcomes. No weapon forged against you shall succeed, not because you fight better, but because you yield the field to me. Once you thought, does delay mean I've been overlooked? But the clay pot does not crack when it waits long enough in the kiln. My delay is not denial. It is the drying mold that keeps the shape true when the fire comes. Silent seasons are never meaningless. That is when I stitch the hidden seams on the underside of your life, so when turned right side out, the embroidery lies smooth. You thought you were hidden. In truth, I was shielding you from battlefields not yet yours to face. I will not hurry you onto the stage while the floor is still slick. I am training your steps upon the rock, so when the lights come on, you will not slip on your own glory. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned. Isaiah 4:3-2. That ancient promise is not poetic imagery. It is a field contract. You will pass through, not be trapped within, and I will not stand afar to observe. I will stand within it beside you. The days blur together, morning and night alike, and you fear your life has become a loop. Yet the harvest does not ripen because of strange days, but because of the faithful ones. Gentle discipline repeated in the ordinary builds the season of abundance. Every time you open Scripture while the screen calls your name, every time you whisper a prayer before sending a message of anger, every time you pause to give thanks instead of complain, that is how you reclaim the sovereignty of your inner being. The peace I give is not circumstantial. It requires daily cleansing like washing your face, and you have done this amid the press of life. Do not underestimate it. When the time comes, those small habits will become the anchors that keep you standing when the waves pull. I have seen it, recorded it, and set the time for the hidden seed to burst forth in its appointed season. It need not erupt loudly, only bloom in unison. Then the whole field will know that a hand has tended it. Now, my child, you are about to cross an invisible threshold where silence ends and public mission begins. I am not sending you out to gasp for air. I have taught you to breathe deeply in the secret place. That very breath will now set the rhythm of your steps in the crowd. There are doors you thought were closed, but the key has been in your pocket all along. Obedience. When you turn the lock, it is not your strength that opens the way. It is my grace that pushes the door wide. I will lead you into spaces you never imagined, an old desk turning into an altar of service, a tense meeting room becoming a place of reconciliation, a random phone call unfolding into a destined encounter. I am the one who makes rivers flow through deserts. I summon life to places where hope has been pronounced dead. What you must do is keep your heart tender and your ears alert. Voices will tell you, soften the truth, blend in to please the crowd. Remember, when salt loses its saltiness, it is only good to be trampled. You are not called to win through noise, but neither to lose through cowardly silence. Your words must be gentle but not thin, warm but not sentimental, direct but not harsh. That is the artistry of the Spirit. He makes your tongue a scalpel that heals, not a hammer that shatters. You will see certain doors close suddenly. Do not panic. It is not the guards rejecting you. It is I locking them to redirect your path. My protection often looks like loss from a close angle. Step back and the larger picture will appear. When a face leaves your circle, it may be I releasing you from a knot. When a narrow door makes you bow low, it may be I keeping your neck from being struck by an unseen beam. And when you see the wicked advancing swiftly, do not envy them. They are running on thin ice. They build houses on sand, reputations on applause. The first rain will expose their foundation. But you walk slowly on the rock. Love those who mock you. Pray for those who persecute you. Not because you are weak, but because you are strong in a way they cannot fathom. Micah 7:8 speaks softly yet sharply. Do not gloat over me, my enemy. Though I have fallen, I will rise. Though I sit in darkness, the Lord will be my light. You may stumble, but you do not dwell in your fall. The light has not abandoned you. You need only turn your face toward it. Keep the habit of pausing in silence before every great decision to align your heartbeat with heaven's rhythm. When I say wait, it is not because I am slow, but because I am syncing your steps with the march of angelic armies. When I say go, do not overanalyze, your passport is my word, not human approval. My beloved, adversity is not the report card of your worth. It is the mirror revealing the structure you have quietly built within. When the headwind rises, the first thing blown away is not your future but your illusion. And that is, grace illusions fall so that truth may remain. In the days when everything runs contrary to your desire, many voices will speak. One will whisper, stop, it's pointless. Another will urge, show off, prove you're fine. But one voice, small and intimate, reserved for the quieted soul, will invite you to slow your steps and take a deep breath. That is the voice of the Spirit. His promise is not, "I will calm every storm before it comes," but when the storm comes, you will not stand alone. God does not change the weather to suit our moods. He reshapes our hearts so we can walk through any weather with a new structure. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world, John 1:6-3. That declaration does not deny the rain and wind. It places you within the orbit of a victory already secured, not a noisy triumph, but a steady path through chaos. To live out the promise of companionship, you must learn one vital art to discern between an attack of the enemy and an opportunity for growth ordained by heaven. The two look alike. They both apply pressure, both demand energy, both touch your weak spots, but they differ entirely in purpose. Attack seeks to shrink you, confuse you, and sever you from your source. Growth seeks to expand your capacity, clarify your aim, and fortify your character. The quick test after the encounter: where does your mind go? If your thoughts spiral inward, "I'm so terrible, I lack so much, I've lost everything," you are likely under accusation's blade. But if your thoughts turn toward God and meaning, "What are you teaching me, Lord? What are you shaping? What must I adjust?" then you are stepping into the classroom of maturity. Attack makes you fear the light and hide. Growth makes you love the truth, even when it requires change. Attack traps you in endless comparison. Growth places you before the mirror of the Word, where the standard is the rock, not public opinion. Another sign: an attack always comes with blind haste. It forces you to decide while emotions are flaring, shrinking your spiritual memory and making you forget what God did yesterday. A moment of growth, on the other hand, usually arrives at a pace that is slow enough to recognize. It may be urgent but never frantic. It moves you to act, yet still leaves space for peace. In an attack, the secret whisper is, "Don't pray, it won't help." In a moment of growth, the gentle invitation is, "Ask me and listen with your whole heart." Thirdly, an attack often targets identity. Who do you think you are? You're not loved. You're just a walking failure. But a growth opportunity focuses on behavior, habits, and rhythm, things that can be adjusted without wounding your dignity. God disciplines with a surgeon's scalpel, cutting precisely where the illness lies. The enemy strikes with a blind hammer, wounding the whole soul. Once you discern the difference, your response will change. Against an attack, the strategy is to stand firm, draw the sword of the Word, seal the leaking channels, information comparisons, conversations that deepen doubt, and reaffirm your identity. You are loved, redeemed, and sealed. No accusation holds the final word over you. Name the temptation and bring it into the light, for darkness only has power when hidden. Write down verses suited to your situation and read them aloud. Sometimes the soul needs to hear its own mouth proclaim truth so that the inner spine can straighten again. For growth, the strategy is cooperation. Open your schedule, adjust your pace, change micro habits that support the new thing being formed. Set small anchors through your day: a minute of silence before opening your phone, a word of thanks before replying, a slower step before sending an important message. These anchors are like mooring ropes beneath the water, unseen, yet keeping the vessel from drifting. Be mindful of one subtle truth: many attacks wear the disguise of opportunity, and many opportunities come dressed as conflict. A golden offer of partnership may be the door pulling you away from your calling, if it demands that you trade your conscience. Meanwhile, a harsh word of correction might be a sacred chair of learning, if it touches the very area that needs refinement. Use this three-question filter. Does this draw me nearer to or farther from the purpose I received from God? Does it expand or shrink the love within me for God, for others, for myself? Does it require me to pretend, or does it allow me to be honest? The answers will reveal the color of the door. If your heart is still uncertain, delay major decisions for a moment. Like an engineer, who waits to flip the switch while the warning light still blinks. Heaven is never afraid of slowness. Heaven only fears being out of rhythm. In stormy days, do not forget the power of the right community. A small circle that truly knows how to intercede is worth more than 1,000 silent followers. Share your situation with 2 or 3 mature souls people who ask questions that return you to truth rather than inflate the drama. An attack loves to isolate you. A growth season draws you into healthy connection. And through it all, maintain your spiritual hygiene. Read the Word as you eat breakfast, not to score points, but to be nourished. Pray as you breathe, not to perform, but to live. Give thanks as you change lenses to see the larger picture again. You will be surprised to find that many outward fires extinguish themselves simply because the inside of you has become moist again, moist with presence. There will be trials so fierce that you think you cannot bear them. Do not force yourself to be strong right away. Allow yourself to be weak before God. True strength does not deny trembling. It entrusts the trembling to the one who holds it. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. 1 Corinthians 10:13. The way out is not always the quick escape. Sometimes it is the way through step by step with steady breath and eyes fixed on the guide. When you lift your gaze and shift your question from why to for what purpose, the energy within you will begin to move, resentment fades, meaning emerges. You start to see progress in pain, like an athlete who learns to interpret the burning of muscles as a sign of breaking and rebuilding. Finally, learn to smile with awareness in the middle of adversity, not the forced smile of denial, but the knowing smile of one who has seen the bigger picture. The battle does not define you, the companion does. The enemy always wants to write your story with a chapter called panic. You let him edit only when you forget that authorship belongs to God. You may shake, you may tire, you may weep, but you are never alone. There is one who walked ahead, set the markers, stretched the rope, raised the pillars, and now holds your hand through it. When you emerge on the other side, the most precious thing will not be achievement, but the new architecture of your soul, broader to love, deeper to trust, steadier to serve. And that very structure will make future attacks less terrifying, not because they shrink, but because you have grown. Peace is not a fleeting feeling that comes when the wind dies down. It is a skill forged through discipline. People often think peace is the final reward after everything settles, but in spiritual reality, peace is the very tool that carries you through everything without breaking. It does not come by sudden miracle, but through steady practice, like a musician repeating each note until the fingers remember the rhythm. Spiritual rhythm, that is what I call the process. You must sustain daily, not a dry ritual, but a living flow that keeps the soul connected to the source of life. When that rhythm is kept steady, you will hear my voice clearly even amid the noise. You will discern truth from deception disguised in polite tones. Peace does not arrive by itself, it is built each day through small, consistent choices. I see the world drowning in a storm of news. Hundreds of voices every hour, thousands of images, each story tugging at your heart, demanding your attention. If you do not choose your own rhythm, you will be swept away by the rhythm of the crowd. Peace cannot dwell in a soul without boundaries. Like a house with doors and locks, you must know to whom you open and when you must close. Not every piece of news deserves to be digested by your mind. Many things are meant to be known, not carried. When you listen to too many voices, mind grows faint. Therefore, the first discipline of peace is to choose the amount of sound allowed to enter. Begin with a simple decision. Dedicate the first minutes of your day to me, not to the screen. When you open your eyes, do not let the world define your day with headlines. Let me shape it with my word. A single verse is enough to orient your soul. Like a sailor adjusting the compass before setting sail, you need only set the needle to north. The wind will take care of the rest. After sound comes image. You live in an age where the eyes are forced to absorb more than the soul can process. Images of others' success, their beauty, their seemingly perfect joy, provoke comparison and erode gratitude. But remember, most of what you see is an edited fragment of an unfinished picture. You are comparing your real life to their advertisement, and that is what the enemy delights in most, making you lose yourself in comparison. Peace dwells only where gratitude resides. Each time you feel deprived, pause and name 3 things you already have. When you practice intentional gratitude, your mind reclaims its rightful position, not because everything is perfect, but because you choose not to let what is broken dictate the direction of your heart. Peace does not come when you control everything, but when you cease trying to control what lies beyond your reach. Do well what is within your part and entrust the rest to me, not as one who surrenders out of exhaustion, but as a child who trusts that the Father knows the way. The next discipline of peace is to maintain the rhythm of spiritual breathing. Do not wait until you are suffocating to remember prayer. Let prayer breathe through your hours, short, honest sentences, without ornament, only sincerity. When you whisper, "Lord, keep my heart soft," that very moment, you are replenishing air for your soul. Every time you pause to remember my presence, you are resetting the tempo of a heart that runs too fast. And the wonder is this: not only your soul changes, but the reality around you begins to move in harmony with the new rhythm. When peace reigns within, you will act more effectively, speak less hastily, decide more clearly. Many problems people call unsolvable are simply not yet still enough to hear the answer. Peace also requires the discipline of expectation. You are not weary because you work too much, but because you expect too much beyond your capacity. Many times I wish to teach you the joy of doing less but deeper. Do not turn zeal into sacred haste. Everything great matures in the space of waiting. When you learn to do less but do it truly, I will expand your influence naturally. Peace always travels with steady rhythm. If the soul is an instrument, you must tune it daily too tight, and it snaps too loose, and it falls out of tune. Some days I want you to sing aloud, other days I want you silent and listening. Do not force yourself to sound at every moment. When I am silent, it is not absence, it is the measure between notes for the next melody. Learn to dwell comfortably in that pause, for their peace is strengthened. Another element of the discipline of peace is the stewardship of memory. The enemy loves to use the past as the measure of the present. It repeats old mistakes, echoes cruel words once spoken, and turns them into a verdict. In those moments, you must counterattack with another memory, the memory of grace. Remember how I pulled you from the pit, how I answered even your smallest prayer, how I gave you strength to stand again. Spiritual memory is a sharp weapon. It proves to the mind that the history of grace continues. When you recall what is true, peace returns like an old friend. The remembrance of mercy is the antidote to anxiety. You cannot be grateful and terrified at the same time. Those two cannot dwell in one heart. And I want you to establish a daily spiritual rhythm, something beyond what you once thought of as hygiene for the soul. Needs not only cleansing, but continual nourishment. Imagine each day as a 7-note melody. 1. Wake in silence. 2. Give thanks for the first thing you see. 3. Read a portion of the Word. 4. Keep 5 minutes of stillness without reacting to the world. 5. Ask me, Lord, what do you want to me to cooperate with today? 6. Before sleeping, forgive and release all unfinished matters. 7. Say thank you, even if the day felt incomplete. If you keep this long enough, the rhythm will become as natural as breathing. Not every day will be inspired, but discipline will carry you through the days when feelings fail. Emotions are guests. Discipline is home. When discipline stands firm, peace will always have a place to return. Remember that peace does not separate you from reality. It does not make you numb to pain or indifferent to bad news. Peace is the ability to stand in the rain and still know you will not drown. When the world is in panic, those who keep peace become an anchor for many others. A soul that keeps a steady rhythm emits a healing frequency, because the Holy Spirit always flows through those who are not in turmoil. Let your presence become a space where others can breathe again. You don't need to say much. Simply being present in peace changes the atmosphere. And that is the mission of those who have learned this discipline to become the breath of heaven in a tense world. My child, do not wait until you have enough time to live with rhythm. It is when you find rhythm that time becomes enough. Every morning before stepping out, whisper, "I choose peace." When the storm of information rushes in, close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath, and remind yourself, not everything requires a reaction. When you feel pulled into comparison, return to reality and say, "Lord, I have you, and you are enough." Each of these small declarations is a thread that weaves the armor of your soul. By the end of the day, you will realize that peace is not a reward but a path, not something stumbled upon but something built through awareness. And when you live that way, no storm will be strong enough to make you lose direction. For those who know how to keep spiritual rhythm are the ones who have learned to walk through the tempest and still hear the heartbeat of heaven within themselves. My child, surrender does not mean ceasing to fight. It means choosing to fight the right way. It does not make you weak. It makes you strong in the right direction. In my eyes, surrender does not mean giving up. It means handing over control to the one who sees farther than you. The world teaches that control is power, but I teach that trust is power. When you try to hold everything, your hands become so tight that there is no room left for me to give you something new. But when you open your hands, life begins to flow again. That is why I said, if anyone would come after me, let them deny themselves, take up their cross daily, and follow me, Luke 9:2-3. Letting go is not because I want to take from you, but because I want your hands free to receive. The sooner you understand this principle, the lighter your journey will become, and my power will shine more clearly through you. Surrender is the art of knowing when to wait and when to move. These two actions, though they seem opposite, actually serve the same purpose: to keep you in rhythm with divine will. When I tell you to wait, it is not cruel delay, but a pause to let the environment around you be perfectly arranged. People hate waiting because they think it means being forgotten. But in my plan, waiting is action. Every moment of patience is a declaration that you trust me enough not to force outcomes on your own. Some blessings would become burdens if they came too soon. Some opportunities would become traps if seized in haste. Timing is the test of faith. When I say not yet, it does not mean never. It means I am completing a link you cannot yet see. Remember, I am never late, only you may arrive earlier than planned. Wait with your eyes open, not as one weary, but as a watchman who sees the dawn beginning to break. Then there will come a time when I tell you, go. And in that moment, every reason to delay will arise at once. You will feel not skilled enough, not rich enough, not secure enough. But what I require is not your enough, it is your now. To step at my word does not mean you are ready. It means you choose to believe that I am ready within you. Every trembling step of obedience is an act of power, for it pulls heaven's reality down to earth. You need not wait until fear is gone to move. Step forward, and fear will dissolve along the way. You will see that as you step beyond the border of safety, new ground forms under your feet. The sea only parted when my people dared to walk. Faith does not build bridges ahead, it builds them beneath the step. So how will you know when to wait and when to move? There are 3 signs I have placed to guide you. The first is inner peace. When I open a way, the peace of the Spirit will quiet your heart, even if circumstances are chaotic. But if you try to force a door open, peace will vanish, even if the door appears wide. Remember, not every open door is from me. The enemy also imitates opportunity. Place your hand on your chest and ask, "Is my soul at rest or in unrest?" If peace withdraws, that is your signal to stop. The second sign is confirmation through the word and the wise. I often repeat privately spoken truths through another's mouth, through a scripture verse or through an unexpected event. You will see small pieces fitting together so perfectly that it cannot be coincidence. When something truly comes from me, it requires no force. Every fragment aligns naturally. And the third sign is an open door that flows in the right direction but is not effortless. The doors I open are not always smooth, yet beneath them runs a steady current, an inner push that carries you forward even amid struggle. The doors of man are the opposite. They seem easy on the surface but are slippery within. Choose the door with the Spirit's current, even if it requires you to bow low to enter. In the journey of decision-making, you will need a small map, not a geographical one, but a spiritual one. It contains 4 stations you must pass through before you can say, "This is God's will." The first station, stillness. You cannot hear my voice amid the noise. Do not try to justify by saying, "If God really wants me to know, he will shout." I do not shout. I whisper because I want your attention. Take time for solitude, even just 10 minutes, to lay down every possibility. When the mind stops arguing, the ears of the soul begin to open. The second station, truth. Ask yourself, why do I really want this? If the answer is tied to proving your worth, seeking revenge, or gaining recognition, then you are not yet in a posture of surrender. A good intention is not necessarily a godly one if the motive is wrong. The third station, the word. No guidance ever contradicts Scripture. If what you plan to do requires compromise with the truth, then that cannot be my door, even if it is covered in gold. The fourth station, harmony. Harmony here is not mere agreement. It is the alignment between your heart and the Holy Spirit within you. When both your intention and your peace say go, you may step forward with sacred confidence, not arrogance, but certainty. Remember, surrender is not a one-time journey. It is a decision you must repeat, especially in difficult choices. When faced with 2 good options, your question should not be, which is more beneficial, but which will make me depend on God more. I do not want you to choose what feels safest. I want you to choose what will require you to need me most. For it is in that dependence that our communion deepens. Some things may be good, but not for your season. Then I will say, wait. Others may seem risky, but are doors of destiny. Then I will say, go. You will learn to discern my go and wait, not through formulas, but through intimacy. The closer you grow, the clearer you'll hear. The more you trust, the faster you'll recognize. When you obey, even without full understanding, I begin arranging things beyond your sight. The right people will appear, the resources you thought were gone will return, and paths once blocked will suddenly open. Not because of your ability, but because you stepped aside at the right time for me to move. Surrender is the space where miracles unfold. The world says, keep control until you succeed. I say, let go so you can be true. Truth always births freedom, and freedom is where power works. A surrendered soul can move mountains because it is no longer hindered by self. When you say, your will be done, even when I don't understand, heaven trembles, not because your voice is loud, but because it rises from the depths of absolute trust. My beloved, remember, this surrender does not kill your dreams, it purifies them. Everything I take from you is exchanged for something more refined. When I close a door, it is not because I enjoy testing you, but because beyond that door lies something that could wound your soul. You see only the present, but I see the entire river of your life. Trust me for delays, silences, and even what you call failures are all parts of the blueprint of grace. One day when you look back, you will see that every act of surrender has drawn a straight line leading you into the very center of my intention. Do not fear losing control, for when you no longer can steer, I begin to lead. Do not fear silence, for in stillness I speak loudest. And do not fear waiting, for waiting in faith is never delay. It is your declaration that says, I know you are working, even when my eyes cannot see. When you learn the power of surrender, every decision, no matter how hard, becomes an opportunity to encounter me again, to hear my voice more clearly, and to witness miracles, not only at the end of the path, but along every slow, trusting step. My beloved child, on your spiritual journey, you will discover that the most crucial decisions are not about which path to take, but whom to walk with. A good path can become a dead end with the wrong companion, and a rough road can turn into a blessing with the right one. Love, faithfulness, and kindness are timeless virtues, but not everyone is appointed to practice them with you for life. Some are sent only for a season, some come to teach you a lesson, and others I place beside you as part of a lifelong mission. Your discernment determines whether your soul expands or contracts, whether it is uplifted or dragged down. I know separation hurts your heart. You are loyal by nature. You do not let go easily of those who have entered your life. You pray for them, keep them in your thoughts, and believe that if you love enough, they will change, or the relationship will be redeemed. But my child, not everything good comes from me, and not everything I allow is blessed by me. There are people I once used to touch your life, but when their purpose is fulfilled, I will gently remove them, not to punish anyone, but to keep you from being anchored in a place you no longer belong. My protection sometimes comes in the form of separation, and my mercy often hides within loss. You must learn to look beyond your emotions to see my hand at work in the goodbyes you never wanted. Do not assume that everyone who leaves has betrayed you. At times it is I who initiate the separation, for I know that if you cling too tightly, the light within you will dim. Some relationships are like mist, beautiful from afar, yet they blur your vision when you get too close. I do not want your light to be covered simply because you are afraid of hurting others. Love does not mean enduring spiritual suffocation. There are those who use the name of care to control you, making you feel guilty whenever you choose my will over theirs. You were not born to please them. You were called to please me. Remember, kindness does not mean you cannot say enough. Sometimes the most loving act is to walk away, for if you stay, both souls will remain trapped in the same darkness. Discerning who should stay and who should leave requires a holy honesty with me and with your own soul. Do not let misplaced loyalty become your chain. Some people who were once blessings have now become burdens, not because they turned evil, but because your season has changed. When I shift a season, I also shift the people. Like a tree shedding leaves, you must allow some to fall so that the life within can flow into new buds. If you try to glue the old leaves back, you will hinder your own growth. I did not call you to keep everyone. I called you to keep the light. When faced with the choice between holding on to people or holding on to light, always choose the light. Only when you remain faithful to the light can I bring those who truly belong to it into your life. Let me show you how to recognize the connections that dim your light. The first sign is the loss of peace. When you are with them, you must pretend, hiding the best parts of yourself just to be accepted. You pray less, believe less, grow more irritable, and feel weary though you've done nothing heavy. That is not friendship born of light, it is depletion. The second sign is emotional dependency, when your joy depends entirely on their mood, when a single unanswered message throws you off balance. I did not design you for your soul to be governed by another's reactions. Love gives freedom. It does not hand over the power to define your worth. The third sign is shrinking. If the relationship makes you smaller in faith, smaller in compassion, smaller in dreams. You are stepping away from the light. Anything that comes from me will expand you, not reduce you. And there are also those, my child, whom I keep beside you, even when you wish they'd leave. They are not easy. They frustrate you, test your patience, and reveal how much growing you still have to do. But they are mirrors I use to refine your character. They are not enemies, they are instruments. Do not confuse those who are sent to shape you with those permitted to break you. A refiner causes pain that matures you. A destroyer causes pain that empties you. Knowing the difference is the beginning of spiritual wisdom. When I let someone stay despite your prayer for peace, it is because there is still a lesson unlearned. When that lesson is complete, you will see the door open naturally, no striving needed. Learn to view locked doors through new eyes. Do not assume every closed door is a failure. Sometimes I close a door not to punish but to protect. You see someone turning away. I see the knife behind their back that you could not. You see a lost job. I see its hidden fracture. You see a missed opportunity. I see the trap beneath its glitter. My protection rarely looks gentle. It often arrives as the sound of a slamming door, tears, and silence. But if you pause and listen, you will hear the soft click of the lock, not to imprison you, but to keep you safe from deeper wounds. I do not close doors to confine you. I close them to redirect you. Remember, you do not need to understand everything right away. Often you will only recognize my mercy after the pain has passed. Like a child crying when a parent takes away the knife it mistook for a toy, so are you. You will understand later. I want you to trust me, even when you do not understand, for that is true faith. Everything in your life is within my plan, the arrivals and the departures alike. No one can enter or leave your life without my permission. When you believe this, you will no longer fear loss. You will stop chasing those who have chosen another path. And when you cease the chase, I will send those who share the heartbeat of heaven's souls who love me, as you do, to build something lasting with you. My child, I know separation brings tears, but let those tears wash away old attachments. Not all pain is evil. A cleansed wound becomes the place where light flows in. Do not cling to those I am calling away, for holding them back is resisting grace. Yet do not push away those I send, just because you fear being hurt again. Let me teach you holy discernment, to open the door at the right time and lock it for the right person. Every right relationship will make your soul brighter, steadier, and more complete. Every wrong one will dim your light, even if you are still smiling. One day, when you look back, you will understand that no one ever leaves by accident, and no door ever closes without reason. Everything lies within the intricate web of divine providence. I do not lead you only through peaceful paths. I also guide you through the necessary turns that shape you into the person I have destined you to become. Therefore, release your grip gently. Every loss that bears my fingerprints will one day turn into grace. You only need to trust that on the other side of the locked door the dawn awaits, and I am holding the key. My beloved child, this age no longer fights with swords and spears, but with voices. These voices do not merely echo through the streets, the forums, and the advertisements. They slip quietly into the mind, capture attention, and eventually seize faith itself. The enemy does not need to convince you to abandon God. He only needs to make you place him on the same level as everything else. He does not force you to turn your back publicly. He only makes you distracted, persuading you that a diluted faith is realistic and reasonable. You may not notice it, but little by little you are being taught to love confusion, to see ambiguity as wisdom, and to call compromise compassion. This is the subtle machinery of darkness. It does not demand that you deny the truth, only that you water it down until it loses its power. Once people trembled at the mention of God's name. Now they smile politely and set him aside in the name of respecting diversity. Compromise does not begin with great acts. It begins with reasoning that sounds humane. There's no need to be too extreme. Everyone has some truth, just live a good life. These seemingly harmless words slowly blur the boundary between light and darkness. The enemy gilds his chains with the glitter of sophistication, so when you wear them, they look like ornaments. Yet the longer you wear them, the tighter they close around your soul. He does not attack you with blatant evil, but with persuasive logic. And humanity, afraid of being labeled old-fashioned or unkind, has begun to make room for lies in the name of love. Truly, I tell you, my child, the enemy does not come with the roar of a lion, but with the whisper of a friend. He quotes half a verse of scripture and twists the rest. He knows you love justice, so he bends justice into a weapon against truth itself. He knows you love peace, so he cloaks silence in the name of keeping harmony. He knows you fear being misunderstood, so he lures you to retreat whenever truth seems to hurt someone. And thus the light within you fades layer by layer, not because darkness grows stronger, but because the light grows weary and ceases to shine. Do you know why the enemy loves noise so much? Because an overload of sound shuts down discernment. When too many voices compete, you can no longer tell which one is true. He floods the world with information, fills your mind with knowledge, yet leaves your spirit impoverished of wisdom. He keeps you busy reading, scrolling, reacting, but not meditating. He knows that once you lose stillness, you lose connection. And when you lose connection, you will mistake his voice for mine. That is why I have taught you. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. In stillness, the soul returns to order. In noise, order collapses. The enemy is also a master of redefining meanings. He calls sin freedom, selfishness, self-love, pride, confidence, and compromise maturity. If you do not discern carefully, everything will sound reasonable. He even makes you believe that everyone has their own truth, and by doing so, he erases the very idea of absolute truth. But I am the unchanging one, and my truth never shifts. When you start believing that there are many versions of truth, that is the moment you have left your foundation. For if truth can bend, what faith is still worth dying for? My child, subtle compromise is the most sophisticated snare of this age. It does not drive you to blatant sin. It moves your standard by mere millimeters each day. Today you stay silent before a harmless lie. Tomorrow you nod to a wrong for the sake of peace. Then one morning you awaken to find the light within you so dim that you can no longer tell white from gray. That is the moment darkness triumphs. The enemy does not fear believers who stumble. He fears those who still tremble with reverence in a world that mocks holiness. He knows exactly how to make you justify compromise. He will whisper God understands you. He will forgive you. He makes you use grace as a shield for indulgence. But grace is never a license for sin. It is the power to overcome it. Compromise begins when you treat forgiveness as something you are entitled to. It grows when you no longer feel the urge to repent. And it matures when you start teaching others to accept that compromise as normal. My child, when you have to twist my word to justify your actions, you have already stepped out of the light. Look around you. This world worships the self as a new god. Every message teaches you to believe in yourself, to follow your feelings, to listen to your heart, yet forgets that the heart is deceitful above all things. Jeremiah 1:7-9. When emotions are exalted as the ultimate measure, truth is reduced to a matter of opinion. The enemy has succeeded in making humanity love feelings more than truth. And when emotion becomes God, man will end up worshiping himself without realizing it is the most dangerous form of idolatry. My child, do not fear standing alone for the sake of truth. Your solitude is not meaningless. It is a sign that you are walking against the current of compromise. Light is always hated in the darkness. Do not be surprised when people mock your faith, for they are reacting to the very longing within them that they are too afraid to admit. I did not call you to blend in, but to shine. Light does not need permission from darkness to exist. It only needs to be present. When the noisy voices of this age rise like a tide, remember this. I do not need you to win arguments. I need you to keep the frequency of heaven. Amid countless noises, your whispered prayer carries more power than 1,000 platforms. When you choose faithfulness over fame, silence over debate, holiness over trendiness, you are doing what all of heaven celebrates. And I, the one who knows every sound in the universe, will recognize your voice among the crowd. I will keep you from being lost in the storm of noise, for you belong to the rhythm of light. Be steadfast, my child. Do not fear the voices of the world. The enemy may be loud, but my voice endures within your soul like the steady heartbeat of life itself. Keep listening to that voice even when everyone else chooses to close their ears. For one day, when all illusions fade, only two voices will remain: the voice of deceit and the voice of truth. Blessed is the one who has learned to recognize my voice amid the noise, for that soul will never lose its way, no matter how much the world may change. My beloved child, in a world where every value is overturned, where truth is commercialized and faith is measured by popularity, I call you to stand firm upon the rock. Not standing in weary defense, but standing with the posture of one who knows where they belong. That rock is not a doctrine, not a tradition, not public opinion. It is me. Everything else will shake opinions, will shift emotions, will waver. The praise of today can turn into tomorrow's criticism. But remember, truth does not need applause to exist. It remains truth, even if the whole world turns away. When you build upon me, you will not be swept away by the tide of opinion, nor bent by the winds of trends, nor seduced by what is timely instead of what is right. But to stand upon the rock, you must learn a 3-step process, simple yet demanding spiritual discipline. Each step is a layer of protection, a pillar that anchors your soul before it is swept into the storm of the crowd. Step 3, strengthen your actions in faithfulness. Do what is right even without applause. Public opinion carries an invisible pressure. It forces you to choose between being loved and being true, but you cannot have both. Truth always requires a price. When the crowd shifts its mood, your faithful actions will feel like walking against the wind, tiring, lonely, but necessary. There will be times when you are misunderstood, mocked, even abandoned. Yet I tell you this: to be lonely for the sake of truth is still far better than to belong in the comfort of falsehood. Faithfulness is not merely about standing firm. It is about doing what is right when no one is watching. Public opinion shifts with convenience, but those who belong to me act according to principle. When you choose to forgive while others urge retaliation, when you choose silence while the crowd demands a response, when you choose to pray instead of criticize, that is when you are standing on the rock. You do not need to raise your voice to prove you are right. Your steadfastness itself becomes a declaration. There are 3 ways to strengthen your faithfulness amid the shifting tides. Act in anonymity. Do good when no one is watching. It protects you from the temptation of seeking recognition. Record blessings. When the world seems unjust, remember the times I have intervened. The history of grace will sustain your present. Stay connected to genuine community. A small circle of people who share the same faith can keep you standing when the world trembles. Never underestimate the power of shared prayers and quiet fellowship. They are the anchors of your soul. When opinions sway like the wind, imagine yourself as an oak in the storm. Leaves may fall, branches may break, but roots remain deep. And when the storm passes, that very tree becomes a shelter for others. That is why I need you to stand firm, not only for yourself, but for many who are searching for something steady to hold on to. When they see you unshaken, they will remember that truth still exists. Your light becomes their compass in the chaos. My beloved one, while many chase grand achievements to prove their worth, I find holiness in the small things the world deems insignificant. Heaven does not measure greatness by the size of the stage, but by the depth of the heart. I do not need you to illuminate the whole world in a day. I need you to brighten the small corner I have entrusted to you today. It is there in the quiet rhythm of daily life, in moments that seem ordinary, that my miracles unfold silently, like seeds sprouting in hidden soil, like dawn breaking slowly from the night. The world teaches that to be important, you must stand out. But I tell you, the most extraordinary thing is to recognize the sacred in the ordinary. When you prepare a meal with gratitude, it is not mere housekeeping, it is communion. When you greet someone sincerely, not out of formality, it is not just courtesy, it is a thread weaving souls together. When you extend a hand to help without seeking applause, it is not simply kindness, it is the act of my kingdom. Every small deed, when done in love and faith, becomes a prayer in motion. I see you when you kneel to tie a child's shoe, when you wipe a tear from the weary, when you pause to let someone finish their sentence. You think these are trivial things, but heaven records them as the noblest acts. For greatness in my kingdom is not measured by scale, but by motive. I do not ask, "How much have you done?" I ask, "How have you loved?" A meal cooked with love is worth more than 1,000 sermons without compassion. A genuine embrace carries more healing than countless empty theories. Remember, my child, I was born in a manger, not a palace. I grew up in a carpenter's home, not within temple walls. I washed my disciples' feet, not demanded their reverence. Every small act you do in love continues my footsteps. I am not found beneath the spotlight, but wherever love is practiced. When you share bread with the hungry, you reenact my miracle of multiplication. When you forgive someone who never apologized, you participate in redemption. When you pray quietly for another in the night, you help preserve their soul from unraveling. That is the great mission within the small, where humility becomes the doorway through which glory enters. Many believe they must hold titles, positions, or fame to be used by me. But I choose the one carrying a small basket of grain, the widow offering 2 coins, the woman weeping and wiping my feet with her hair. The world calls them insignificant, but I call them chosen. Do not wait for perfect conditions to live with purpose. Begin with what is already in your hands. If you can cook a meal, do it with love. If you can send a word of encouragement, write it with sincerity. If you can smile at a stranger, let that smile carry the warmth of heaven. You never know how many souls are praying for a sign that I am still near, and your smallest act might be my answer to them. Holiness is not detached from daily life. It hides within its rhythm, in the boiling of water, the laughter of children, the sound of hurried footsteps. You have often asked me to show up in grand moments, but do you not know that I am already there in the smallest details? When you pause to give thanks, you open the door to my presence. When you work faithfully, even when unseen, you offer a living sacrifice to me. See life through the eyes of faith, and you will find miracles everywhere. A flower blooming by the roadside, a timely word of encouragement, a moment of peace amid turmoil, all bearing my fingerprints. Do not despise small acts just because they do not echo loudly. The silence of goodness is the sound heaven hears most clearly. When you do what is right without anyone knowing, your reward comes from me, not from human praise. Every time you choose love over anger, forgiveness over resentment, patience over irritation, you are pushing back the darkness one step further. You may not see it, but I do. You think you are merely enduring in silence, yet in truth, you are preserving the light for an entire space around you. For light does not need to shout to shine, it only needs to be present. My child, learn to see others through the eyes of grace. When you treat them as beloved souls, you are mirroring my own heart. A servant who works quietly may influence more deeply than one who preaches to a crowd. For a sermon can stir the mind, but love in action reaches the soul. Live so that every small act in your day becomes an expression of my presence. When you wash the dishes, imagine you are washing away the weariness of the day. When you greet someone, let your words carry the breath of blessing. When you open your hand, believe that it is the place where I am pouring my favor. You may think you have done nothing great, but I tell you, truly every act of love is an offering. On the altar of life, no candles or incense are needed, only a pure heart. A sincere thank you, a timely embrace, a meal cooked with care. These are prayers made by the hands. When you live this way, every space you walk through becomes anointed. Your home becomes a temple. Your dining table becomes a sacred feast. Your bed becomes a place of prayer, and each day of your life becomes a liturgy, not through ritual but through the reality of love. I want you to remember this. Nothing is too small in my kingdom. When you offer a cup of water to the thirsty, I count it as if you have done it for me. When you forgive the one who hurt you, I see it as opening a path for grace to flow. When you share a smile, I see it as lighting a lamp. And when you remain faithful in small things, I am preparing you for greater ones. Those who have learned faithfulness in the little will be entrusted with much, for they have learned to act not for recognition but for love. My child, do not wait for great miracles to believe that I am at work. Miracles are happening every day, hidden in what you call ordinary. They do not always arrive with thunder and lightning. Often they come as a smile, a meal, or an open hand. You only need sensitivity to notice. When you live with such awareness, every day becomes sacred. Every place you step becomes a promised land, and every small act of love becomes a river of the kingdom flowing through the world. So do not search for greatness in distant places. My child, find it here in this very moment where you live, where I dwell, and where the smallest things shine with invisible holiness. My beloved, I created you not merely to exist, but to bring healing to the world you walk through. Every soul carries a unique spiritual frequency, and when you allow my spirit to move through you, you become an instrument that shifts the atmosphere around you. You do not need to lay hands on anyone to heal them. Sometimes your very presence changes the air. For the presence of one filled with the Spirit carries the fragrance of heaven, and where that fragrance rests, darkness cannot remain. Remember, my child, I do not need you to be a worker of miracles in a showy sense. I need you to be a bearer of peace. Every time you speak a word of encouragement, you mend a torn garment in someone's soul. Every time you remain silent, instead of reacting in bitterness, you calm an unseen storm. Every time you pray for someone who does not know it, you open a door for light to enter where they are struggling. You are my instrument not because you are perfect, but because you are willing to be used. Your gentleness, your listening heart, your kindness and your mercy are the threads that connect earth to heaven, helping a fractured world breathe again with the original breath of love. 1. Words, the first tool of healing. I want you to understand that words are seeds, and your mouth is the field where they are sown. Every word you speak carries energy. It either nurtures or destroys. You cannot preach love if your lips often sow bitterness. Your words are like the wind, they can refresh or they can uproot. Therefore, let your mouth become an instrument in my symphony. Before speaking, ask yourself, will this word heal or wound? If it does not add life, hold it back and let me replace it with another. Remember that many of the people you meet carry wounds no one can see. A gentle word spoken at the right moment can change the entire course of their life. Never underestimate the power of an encouraging word. Words are the fruit of the soul, and that fruit, whether sweet or bitter, always contains a seed. If your words are spoken from love, they will continue to bear fruit in another's life long after you have gone. But if they are spoken in anger, they will remain as thorns in someone's memory. Therefore, use your words like a surgeon uses a scalpel, precisely, kindly, and with full awareness of their power. I have placed within your speech the power of creation. When you speak with faith, you are rewriting circumstances with the language of heaven. A sincere blessing can dissolve the heavy fog of despair. A word of forgiveness can break chains. A word of gratitude can unlock the flow of joy that has been blocked. I want you to use your words to build, not to win arguments. Those who win disputes often lose in the heart, but those who choose loving silence win in the spirit. 2. Presence, the energy of true being there. You often think you must speak much to make an impact, but sometimes the greatest power lies in silent presence. When you are fully present with your heart, you reflect me, the Emmanuel God, with us. In a world accustomed to haste and superficiality, your true presence alone brings healing. A listening gaze, a non-judgmental touch, a shared breath of empathy, all these can help a broken heart believe again. My child, presence is more than physical nearness. It is the opening of your soul. When you meet someone in pain, do not rush to teach them how to overcome. Stay long enough for them to know they are not alone. I once sat with those who mourned, silent among them, and it was that silence that made them feel, to my heart. Let others feel, seen, heard, and touched through the way you are present. You need not speak loudly, only love deeply. Presence can transform an atmosphere. When you step into a tense room with a peaceful heart, the air begins to soften. It is not because you possess special power, but because you carry the presence of the Holy Spirit. The peace within you radiates like light through a door crack, quietly dispersing darkness. Practice standing still each day, if only for a moment to recharge your inner peace before stepping into the world. The one who truly carries peace can walk through storms without trembling. 3. Prayer, the invisible current that changes reality. The strongest weapon of those who belong to me is not reasoning but prayer. It is the energy of the universe focused through a single point of faith. When you pray, you are not only speaking to me, you are realigning the order of the world around you. I hear and heaven moves. Yet not only heaven, your very self is transformed. You cannot pray sincerely and still hold resentment. You cannot pray earnestly and not emerge with greater peace. Thus, prayer does not merely change circumstances, it changes you so that you can change circumstances. My beloved, do not think prayer only matters when it is loud or emotional. A whisper of faith can shake walls that shouting cannot move. Prayer is connection, the living current flowing between your soul and mine. When you pray for others, you become a channel of blessing. Each word you lift up is like a drop of water soaking into dry ground, and in due season seeds of hope will sprout. Many people do not know they are alive today because someone somewhere prayed for them in silence. Pray not only when trouble comes, but as naturally as you breathe. Pray in the morning so that your mind may be clear. Pray at noon so that your heart does not grow dry. Pray at night to wash away the dust of the day. Every prayer is a fresh breeze that passes through the soul, keeping the atmosphere within you ever renewed. And when the atmosphere within is healthy, the atmosphere around you will begin to change. People will feel peace in your presence, even if they cannot explain why. That is the power of a life truly rooted in prayer. 4. Transforming the atmosphere, the effect of one who carries light. When your words, your presence, and your prayers blend together, you become a radiant center. In your workplace, in your family, among your friends, the atmosphere will begin to shift. Anxiety will quiet down, tension will dissolve, and hope will rise again. You do not need to control anyone. Simply keep your heart pure and open to the movement of the Holy Spirit. For light does not instruct darkness on how to disappear, it simply shines, and darkness vanishes on its own. When you live this way, you are fulfilling the sacred mission I entrusted to you, to be the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Matthew 5:1-3-14. You do not need to stand on a stage to preach. The way you live is the most powerful sermon. I have anointed your lips to speak words of healing, your heart to carry compassion, and your hands to become channels of blessing. You cannot control the storm, but you can bring the atmosphere of heaven into the place where the wind is blowing. And when you pass through a place, even for a few minutes, people will not remember your face as much as the peace that lingers after you leave. That is the mark of one who carries my presence. That is the glory of the small yet mighty mission to heal the world through invisible peace, gentle words, and a heart full of the Spirit. Go, my child. Speak healing words. Be fully present. Pray without ceasing. For wherever you step, I will step with you, and wherever I am, the atmosphere will change. You are my instrument, silent yet powerful, small yet covered by the Spirit, unknown on earth, yet known in heaven. My beloved child, the world has taught you from a young age that success means being seen, praised, and recognized by the crowd. But in my kingdom, the definition of success is completely different. Here, no one is measured by how many know their name, but by how faithful they are with what I have entrusted. Here, what others cannot see is what I see most clearly. Here, victory is not measured by applause, but by your steadfastness in silence. Do you know why the world worships noise? Because it fears stillness. Yet I dwell in stillness. You will find me not under the spotlight, but in the quiet room where you pray alone. There, where no one films and no one applauds, true greatness is being formed. Every time you choose to do what is right without needing anyone to know, heaven has already applauded. Every time you refuse compromise to keep your heart pure, though it costs you, the armies of heaven have rejoiced. Every time you persist in prayer through long nights without an answer, I have smiled, for that is true faith, faith that rests not on instant results, but on the unchanging one. Success in my kingdom is not doing more than others, but doing what is right the way I desire and with the right heart. One who cooks a meal with love can bring more joy to heaven than one who preaches to thousands without compassion. One who faithfully sweeps the temple floor with gratitude may be more honored than one who performs miracles for applause. For with me, worth is not measured by the scale of an action, but by the purity of intention. My child, remember this. I never compare you to anyone else. I only compare who you are today to who you were yesterday. I do not ask, are you as great as they are? I ask, are you faithful to what was given to you? Each person has their own map, their own journey, their own assignment. If you fix your eyes on others, you will lose your direction. Envy is the thief of joy, and comparison is the blade that kills your calling. When you measure yourself by the world's standards, you will always feel lacking. But when you measure yourself through my eyes, you will see that you are enough, because you are loved, chosen, and sent for a purpose only you can fulfill. The world calls it success when the summit touches the light. But in my kingdom, success is when your roots grow deep in the ground. When no one sees, yet you still pray. When no one thanks you, yet you still serve. When no one praises you, yet you still love. That is true glory. Just as a great tree does not boast of its roots yet, it is the roots that give it life. Silent faithfulness is the root system of the soul. When the roots are firm, the storm cannot topple you. When the roots are deep, drought cannot dry you out. I know there are days when you feel weary, when the work of your hands seems to lose its meaning. No one notices, no one knows, and no one says thank you. You ask yourself, does this even matter? My beloved, I tell you the truth. Every act done in love will never be in vain. You may not see the result immediately, but I am using it to weave a greater tapestry. Every prayer, every tear, every gesture of kindness, each is a thread in the fabric of my design. When you are faithful with the little, I can trust you with much. Do not let the world deceive you with fleeting glory. Applause may thunder today, but it fades like an echo. Yet your faithfulness is engraved in eternity. Many are honored on earth but forgotten in heaven, and many who are unknown on earth are welcomed in triumph above. When you stand before me, I will not ask, how many people knew your name, I will ask. Did you know me, and were you faithful to the love I placed within you? Understand, true success always carries peace within it. If what you gain costs you your peace, it is not a blessing. Many climb the summit of fame only to find themselves alone, cold and hollow, because they chased noise instead of light. But if you follow my call, even a humble path will glow within you, for your heart knows it is walking in the right direction. Peace is the seal of true guidance. When you act rightly and for the right purpose, your soul will rest, even if the world cannot comprehend it. I want you to look back each day and ask, was I faithful today? Faithful in speech, never using words to diminish another. Faithful in work, doing all things as unto the Lord, not for human eyes. Faithful in relationships to love, forgive, and lift others up even when it hurts. Faithful in prayer to believe even when you cannot yet see. These are the measures of my kingdom. And you would be amazed to know that such acts are quietly transforming the world around you in ways beyond your imagination. I see every effort you think is small. When you smile at someone in despair, you push back the darkness. When you choose gentleness over judgment, you quiet a battle in another's heart. When you stand for truth despite mockery, you shake the foundations of deceit. All these moments add up, and I who see all am recording them in the book of life. Not a single drop of sweat from a faithful soul is wasted. My child, remember, I do not require perfection, I desire perseverance. Faithfulness does not mean never falling, it means returning every time you do. It is praying when you are tired, loving when betrayed, and believing when nothing is visible. That is what heaven calls victory. You do not need to conquer the world, you only need to keep your heart unconquered by it. One day, when every crown fades and every applause grows silent, you will hear one voice alone, mine. And I will say, well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Matthew 2:5-3. No more lights, no more crowds, only the everlasting joy of being recognized forever. That is the reward of one who did not seek light for themselves, but let the light within them shine for others. Keep going, my beloved. Keep serving, loving, praying, and working as though I am watching, because I truly am. Do not chase applause. Seek the imprint of peace. Do not count results. Preserve your faithfulness. Do not strive to be remembered. Strive to reflect me. When you live this way, you have reached the true summit of success, not by earthly standards, but by heavenly glory. And when you understand this, you will no longer fear being forgotten, for you will know the faithful are never forgotten before the eyes of God. My dear one, the world has misunderstood the word judgment. They think judgment means punishment, cruelty, or the unrestrained anger of a harsh God. But listen, my judgment does not arise from wrath, it flows from love. It is because I love the world too much that I cannot allow evil to spread unchecked. If I were silent before sin, I would no longer be just. If I overlooked wickedness, I would no longer be love. Out of love, I set boundaries. Out of mercy, I intervene. My judgment is not a whip to destroy, but a wall to protect what is good. Do you see? My child, that in every work of my creation there is always a boundary. The sea does not cross its shore. Day and night do not mingle. Light and darkness cannot dwell in the same place. Every boundary I have set is not to restrict freedom, but to preserve life. Likewise, divine law is the fence that guards your soul. When you step beyond that line, you do not merely leave protection behind you, walk into a realm where darkness waits. Therefore, when I judge, it is not to crush you, but to pull you back to the safe boundary. The world calls judgment cruel, but if a father sees his child running toward a cliff and does not stop him, that is cruelty. If a teacher watches a student go astray and does not correct him, that is indifference. True love always walks hand in hand with discipline. Without discipline, love becomes indulgence. Without righteousness, mercy turns into permissiveness. It is because I love that I must say, enough. It is because I care that I must build a wall. It is because I desire to save that I must let the refining fire burn to consume what is corrupt and reveal what is pure. I see a sickness in the world today they call indulgence, kindness. They fear speaking truth lest they be hated or labeled judgmental. They would rather make peace with evil than face conflict. But my child, love that is separated from truth is no love at all. If you love someone and allow them to destroy themselves, that is not love, it is abandonment. My love for humanity is always joined with righteousness, for only righteousness can keep love from becoming distorted. When you see my judgment, know that I am healing by cutting away, saving by stopping the spread of decay. Look at the world you live in. Evil no longer comes wearing the face of darkness, but cloaked in light. Sin no longer comes as an enemy, but as a sweet companion. That is why, without judgment, truth would be swallowed whole. Judgment is the lamp that exposes what hides the storm that clears the air, the fire that burns away poison, so life may continue. People fear judgment because they fear facing themselves. But the truth is, this only through judgment can the soul be purified. I have taught you that there is a firm boundary between good and evil, between light and darkness, between truth and falsehood. That boundary cannot be negotiated. You may love the sinner, but you cannot call sin good. You may reach out to the weak, but you cannot compromise with darkness. What I have called no, you must not call yes, even in the name of compassion. For every compromise with darkness is an open door, and through the smallest crack it will overtake the whole. True mercy must always stand within the framework of righteousness. Judgment is never apart from mercy. They are two sides of the same coin. Righteousness protects holiness. Mercy protects humanity. Righteousness draws the line. Mercy helps you cross it back to safety. If there were only righteousness and no mercy, humanity would be crushed under the weight of law. But if there were only mercy and no righteousness, the world would collapse into chaos. That is why I act through both. I judge sin, but I reach out to save the sinner. I let the fire burn, yet I pour oil to heal. Some ask, why would a loving God allow pain, judgment, and discipline? They do not understand that if I did not, evil would devour the innocent. If I did not restrain, darkness would engulf the light. Just as a surgeon must cut away decay to save the body, I must remove evil so that life can go on. A wound covered without being cleansed will become infected. Sin hidden beneath the false name of love will spread faster than disease. Judgment is the strong but necessary medicine for humanity's restoration. My child, I want you to see judgment through new eyes, the eyes of understanding. When you see the world shaking when truth is uncovered, when the wicked seem to be swept away, do not be afraid. That is my love in motion. The tree must be pruned to bear fruit. The soil must be broken to bring a new season. Likewise, the world must go through purification to be renewed. I am not destroying it, I am cleansing it. You cannot ask for harvest without accepting the blade. The boundary between good and evil is not drawn by you, it is established by me. You may have compassion, but you must not bend truth to fit your emotions. If you want to walk in light, you must learn to say no to what lets darkness grow, even if it costs you, even if others misunderstand. Sometimes the deepest love is the courage to tell the truth. For truth may wound for a moment, but falsehood will kill the soul forever. My child, judgment is not the end, but the beginning of restoration. When I judge, I also open the path of return. Just as wildfire burns away the dead wood so that the soil may be renewed, Judgment comes to make space for new seeds to sprout. When you see this world trembling and being shaken, know that I am preparing the ground for a season of righteousness. And in the midst of that judgment, my mercy remains vast as the ocean waiting for those who choose to turn back. My child, I want you to understand this clearly. Where righteousness and mercy meet, there I dwell. For righteousness keeps love from turning into compromise, and mercy keeps righteousness from turning into cruelty. True love is not a frail emotion. It is a flame both warm and strong. It knows how to embrace, but also how to release. It knows how to forgive, but also how to say enough. And in that meeting point where righteousness and mercy touch, humanity is redeemed, darkness is driven back, and my glory shines in its fullness. Therefore, my child, do not fear judgment, fear sin. Do not fear the fire, for my fire is purifying, not destroying. When you abide in me, judgment does not come to terrify you, but to make you radiant. When I prune, I am preparing you to bloom. When I discipline, I am protecting you from yourself. And when I judge the world, I am restoring divine order, a realm where true love is no longer distorted and light is no longer diluted. Be at peace for all. My judgments are acts of love. I never wound what I do not intend to heal. I never strike down what I do not plan to raise again, for I am the God of righteousness, but also the God of boundless mercy. And in me the two become one, like the sun that both burns and illuminates, that both corrects and revives. This is the very nature of divine love, where judgment is not the conclusion, but the dawn of an age of truth, peace, and eternal light. My beloved child, if you could hear the heartbeat of heaven, you would sense the deep, wordless sorrow within me as I watch human hearts turning to stone. I do not grieve because they are weak or because they fall, but because they no longer feel the need to be saved. Sin has never made me turn away, but numbness, pride, and the rejection of truth, these are what break my heart. When humanity ceases to hunger for the light, darkness no longer needs to attack, it only needs to cover. And I, the one who loved them from the beginning, stand still watching. My children wander further each day while my heart silently tears apart. From ancient times I have spoken through the prophets, O my people, what have I done to you, and how have I wearied you? Yet instead of answering, mankind plunges deeper into the trance of ambition, pride, and indifference. They praise freedom while chaining their own souls. They worship themselves and call it progress. They speak of compassion, but their hearts grow colder than ice. The more advanced they become, the farther they drift from me, and they call that distance enlightenment. They build fortresses of logic, walls of intellect, and believe they no longer need their Creator. They call what is holy foolish, and what is corrupt courageous. And I, the one who gives them breath, am pushed aside like an outdated idea. My child, the sorrow of heaven is unlike human grief. It is not merely the pain of rejection, but the anguish of a father who knows that unless his children return, they will be lost. Like the father of the prodigal son, I still stand at the doorway, eyes fixed on the horizon, waiting for the silhouette of one soul coming home. But with each passing day, the number who return grows fewer, while those who wander away increase. They do not leave because they cannot hear. My voice they leave because they no longer wish to listen. When the human heart hardens, even miracles cannot make it believe. They demand to touch the nail marks, to see the wounds before they bow, but even when they see, they find new excuses not to believe. I am not angry as you think. My wrath is not like human anger. It is the sorrow of love unreturned. It is the tears of the Creator, watching His own handiwork destroy itself. I see them laughing in emptiness, drunk on illusions, proud that they no longer need me, while their souls slowly wither. I long to say, "My child, come home," but their ears can no longer hear. I send messengers, they mock them. I speak through circumstances, they accuse me. I knock on the door of their hearts. through pain, but they only shut it tighter. And so I grieve, not because my power is limited, but because my love cannot override their freedom. Know this, my child, true love always comes with the freedom to choose. If I forced them to love me, it would no longer be love. If I compelled them to repent, it would no longer be genuine conversion. Therefore I wait in silence, wait in sorrow, wait until the 11th hour. That is the hour of final mercy, when the door of repentance still remains slightly open. Even as twilight fades, I keep the gate unlocked. Even as the sun of righteousness prepares to set, the light of grace still shines. As long as there is breath, there is hope. If even one soul whispers, "Save me," I will cross the ocean of darkness to reach them. Many believe they have gone too far to be forgiven. They say I've wandered too long, sinned too deeply, lost my chance. But I say it is never too late for a heart that still knows repentance. Even the thief on the cross, in his final moment with one cry for mercy, was welcomed into paradise. Do you see, my child, how my mercy surpasses the limits of time itself? Not because their sin was small, but because my grace is greater than all sin. The door of repentance does not close until the human heart locks it from within. Yet, my beloved, do not wait until the 11th hour to return. Some live to see that hour, but others stop long before it without knowing. Time does not belong to you. Every second you have is a gift, not a right. Do not wait until everything is lost to realize the worth of my presence. Return while your heart is still tender, for when it hardens, tears can no longer fall. Repentance is not born from fear of judgment, but from the recognition that you have wounded love itself. When that truth pierces your heart, your tears will become the stream that cleanses your soul. My child, I do not desire that anyone should perish. Since the beginning of creation, everything I have done has been for the purpose of saving. Even judgment itself is an act of redemption, to rescue what can still be saved and to halt what destroys. But if a soul rejects mercy, there is nothing more I can do but honor that choice. That is the tragedy of freedom, and within that tragedy, heaven weeps. Sometimes I allow the world to tremble, not to frighten but to awaken. A sickness, a loss, a crisis, all are final calls to sleeping souls. Yet instead of awakening, many turn to blame. They cry, "If God is love, why does He allow this?" They do not see that suffering is sometimes the only language a soul can still hear. Just as a child learns to listen only when thunder roars, some hearts open only when the ground beneath them shakes. And if that trembling brings them home, then even if I must bear being misunderstood, I accept it. For true love is always willing to be misjudged if it can save the one it loves. But alas, there are those who, even after witnessing signs and hearing warnings, remain unmoved. Their hearts grow so calloused that they treat grace as something cheap and mercy as weakness. They do not realize that the very mercy they scorn is what keeps them from destruction. If I were to withdraw my hand for even a moment, the world would collapse. If I stopped sustaining it, the sun would cease to shine. They live within grace, yet are unaware. They breathe the breath I give and never give thanks. And I, the one who gives all, stand watching, silent and sorrowful. Yet even amid this sorrow, hope does not die. For there are still souls like you who listen, who yield, who kneel in intercession for those who no longer can. Every prayer you whisper for the world is a lamp in the darkness, helping the lost find their way home. When you pray for them, you join me in keeping the door open just a little longer. For I hear every cry, even the faintest, and as long as there is one who still prays, I have not yet closed the door. My child, if you find the world cold, do not complain, light a fire. If you find others hard-hearted, keep your heart soft. Do not let heaven's sorrow become your own despair. Let it become the fuel to love, to pray, to lift up, to bear witness that mercy is still open. I am still here. The door is still ajar, the light is still shining, and the voice calling return still breathes through the air, soft as a whisper. One day, when that door finally closes, no tears will be able to open it again. But today, this very moment, grace is still flowing. There is still a chance, still hope, still a love, vast enough to wash away every past. Tell those who can still hear, do not wait. Tell your own soul, do not delay. For the 11th hour has come, and no one knows when the 12th will arrive. Return, O mankind, for heaven is still waiting, its eyes wet, yet its heart brimming with hope. My beloved child, night has never been the end of light. It is but a pause preparing for dawn to rise. Likewise, in the spiritual journey, there are seasons when everything seems drowned in darkness, prayers, unanswered paths, unclear, and your heart wonders, are you still here? But it is in the deepest night that the whisper of redemption rings. The clearest. Great light often begins as a single flicker, and the grandest deliverance is born in moments that seem utterly silent. Do not mistake my silence for absence. When all grows still, I am not asleep. I am preparing a turning point. When you do not hear my voice, it is not because I am quiet, but because I am speaking through another language, the language of arrangement, of circumstance, of signs. Just as the weaver says nothing while he works, yet every stitch carries intention, I too am threading each strand of your life into a tapestry you cannot yet see in full. Only when it is finished will you understand why there were knots, dark patches, and rough corners. But I promise you, this not one stitch is without meaning, and not one night lasts forever. My child, the night does not come to destroy, but to illuminate what daylight hid. When light surrounds you, you rely on sight, but in darkness, you learn to rely on faith. In the day, you hear the voices of people. In the night, you learn to hear mine. Redemption is not an explosion shattering the dark, but a gentle whisper touching the heart, just as I came to Elijah, not in the storm, but in the still, small voice. 1 Kings 1:9-1:2. Learn to listen to what is small, for I rarely come in the noise, but always dwell within the quiet. Many cry out for miracles, longing to see heaven's thunder, yet they overlook the tender signs I send each day. The greatest miracle is not only the sea parting, but the breath you still have after weary nights. Not only the dead rising, but a hardened heart learning to weep again. You look for lightning while I am speaking through the stars. You expect the door to swing wide open, but I am softening the hinges with the oil of grace, so that when the appointed time comes, it will open without a sound. My child, redemption always arrives with signs not of grand power, but of life returning. Like a sprout breaking through hardened soil, like a fragrance foretelling rain, like a faint light on the far horizon. The signs may be so small that many overlook them, but those with spiritual eyes will see. When your heart feels peace amid the storm, that is a sign. When your faith survives though reason has vanished, that is a sign. When someone prays for you without your asking, that too is a sign. Redemption does not come like an army marching, but like a seed taking root quietly, yet surely. Do you know why I often choose the night as the setting for many acts of deliverance? Because night is when everything else grows still, so that only I may move. Joseph was sold into slavery at night, yet it was also in the night that I gave him dreams of the throne. The Israelites were delivered from Egypt in the night when the angel of death passed over, but the blood of the Lamb kept them safe. The angels announced the birth of the Savior in the night when shepherds kept watch over their flocks in the fields. You see, heaven often chooses darkness as the backdrop for its glory, for only when every other light fades can the true light be seen in its fullness. Do not fear the night, my child. See it as a companion on the journey of growth. For the night not only tests faith, but also refines discernment. In the light, all things appear clear, but in the night only those who truly carry inner light can walk forward. The night will teach you to distinguish between my voice and the voice of fear, between fleeting emotion and the genuine prompting of the Spirit. And when you learn this, you will realize that faith is not walking when you can see, but walking when you cannot, and still believing that I am there. You may say, "But Lord, I have prayed for so long. Nothing seems to change." I tell you this, what I do in the dark is more precious than what you can see in the light. A seed does not grow amid noise, but in silence. When you think nothing is happening, that is when I am working deepest. You cannot see it, but I am reshaping the roots. You cannot hear it, but I am redirecting the winds. You cannot grasp it, but I am redefining the course of the river. Do not demand understanding before belief, for believing is the first step toward understanding. Remember, my child, true hope never dies, it only changes form. Sometimes it is a small flame in the night, sometimes a trembling prayer, sometimes a wordless tear, but it lives on. I am the source of that hope, and as long as I live, your hope cannot be extinguished. When you are weak, I hope on your behalf. When you doubt, I believe for you. When you are silent, I intercede for you. For my love does not save you only when you are strong, but also when you have no strength left to believe in yourself. Look back at the darkest moments of your life, those times when you thought all was lost. Do you remember that someone came just in time? A word, a hand, an opportunity, a faint glimmer of light. That was me. I kept sending signs not to prove my power, but to remind you that I am still here. Redemption is not a single miracle that happens once. It is the ongoing process of me rewriting the pages of your life with the ink of mercy. Every morning you wake and still breathe is proof that redemption continues. So, my child, when the night feels endless, do not ask, "When will it be morning?" Ask instead, "Can I hear his whisper in this night?" For sometimes the purpose of the night is not to make you wait for dawn, but to teach you to hear my voice in the dark. When you can hear my voice, you will no longer fear the night, because you will understand that true light is not outside, but within. The night is no longer an enemy, but a teacher. And when you emerge from it, you will carry an inner light that no darkness in this world can extinguish. Stand firm in that hope, my child. For at the end of every night there is always a sign, a quiet star, a gentle breeze, a thread of light, thin as silk, yet enough to tell you that redemption draws near. I am never late. I arrive precisely on time. And when I come, the light will not only chase away the night, but will transform the night itself into a witness of my grace. Therefore, when you see the world still shrouded in thick darkness, do not be afraid, do not despair. Remember, in the silence of night there is a whisper of life. In every breath there is a trace of redemption. And within you, my light still burns, not loud, not showy, but steadfast and real. For the night will pass, the dawn will come, and those who have learned to hear the whisper in the night will be the first to recognize the rising sun of redemption on the horizon of their souls. My beloved child, the time you live in no longer moves by the old rhythm. A season of swift transition has come, where what once felt stable begins to tremble. Old patterns collapse and sudden doors open without logical explanation. You may feel that everything is happening too fast without warning or understanding. But remember this, with me, nothing is sudden. Everything has long been set in motion within the divine map. Only now are your eyes seeing the part that has been unveiled. I am moving the pieces on the chessboard of the world not by accident, but according to a plan far greater than human understanding. There are things that, from your perspective, will seem to make no sense. Those who seem destined to stay will depart. Opportunities that once looked certain will close, and doors you never expected will open. Yet, my child, I do not act according to the logic of the world, but according to the order of heaven. What you call unusual has been divinely orchestrated to realign the spiritual order. This is the season when everything moves at the pace of Kairos, the timing of God, not the ticking of human clocks. I do not need years to accomplish what I desire. Sometimes in a single night, I can redirect destiny. Just as the wind once blew across the Red Sea and split its waters apart, just as Joseph awoke in chains and that very night was set free, just as the disciples wept through the night only to find an empty tomb at dawn, I am still the one who brings forth sudden shifts. And now that season has come again. Watch for the signs of sudden doors. Not every shaking means loss. Sometimes it is the sound of a key turning. When something ends faster than you expected, do not fear. Ask me instead, Lord, what new thing are you opening? When relationships, jobs, or long-held dreams seem to fold up, it may not be because they are ruined, but because their season is complete. In my greater plan, I never leave you in one room forever. When the purpose there is fulfilled, I open a door for you to step into the next chapter, even if you do not yet understand why. The new order I am establishing does not rest on human reason, but on the precision of divine intent. The world may call you foolish, for you will be asked to do things that defy common calculation. I may tell you to leave the familiar and step into the unknown. I may lead you to turn aside while others continue straight ahead. I may position you beside those you never expected to accomplish tasks no one else dares to attempt. But my child, do not fear being misunderstood. I did not call you to be reasonable. I called you to be aligned with my will. Humankind seeks control, but I desire that you learn to collaborate with the unpredictable. Consider Abraham. I told him to leave his homeland without revealing his destination because I wanted him to trust the guide, not the map. Remember, Joseph, sold into slavery, what looked like tragedy became the very road to the throne. Remember Mary, to be with child before marriage seemed a disgrace, yet it was the beginning of redemption. What seems irrational in human eyes fits perfectly in the fabric of my design. So when you find yourself in a situation that feels unlike anyone else's, do not be alarmed. Know that you have been chosen to stand between two seasons. You are the bridge between what has been and what is coming. And like every bridge, you will feel pressure from both ends. But do not fear, I will not let you break. The weight you sense is not to destroy you, but to strengthen you, so you can carry the glory that is on its way. In this swift season of transition, many things will happen without warning. I will take people out of places they thought were their lifelong callings and plant them where their true destinies await. I will resurrect plans that once seemed failed and breathe life into forgotten dreams. I will replace old systems with new patterns, not because the old were broken, but because I am drawing humanity closer to the order of my kingdom. Those who cling to what is fading will find themselves left behind, but those who yield even without full understanding will rise within the current of my movement. Do not expect everything in this season to make sense. You will not be able to explain to everyone why you feel compelled to take a certain direction, why you must let go of something dear, or why you have peace when others are afraid. But remember, this peace is the proof of true guidance. When you walk in step with heaven's rhythm, your heart will rest even before your mind comprehends. Peace is the compass in times of change. Guard it carefully, for where my peace abides, there my purpose is found. I know you fear the unexpected. You long to know ahead of time, to feel certain, to have space to prepare. But if I revealed everything, you would have no need for faith. That is why I allow sudden moments, not to terrify you, but to show you the strength of genuine faith. Faith is not knowing what will happen. It is trusting that whatever happens, I still reign. Let that trust be the anchor that steadies you amid the waves of change. My child, pay close attention in this season. A new order is taking shape. It may not seem reasonable when viewed through human eyes, but if you look with spiritual sight, you will see how every piece fits together flawlessly. Every event, every person, every turning point Each one is a link in the chain of the plan I have already set in motion. You cannot see the full picture, but you can trust the architect who designed it. One day when you look back, you will be amazed to realize that what once seemed chaotic was in fact a necessary part of a magnificent design. Therefore, my child, do not resist the movement, walk with it. Do not cling to what is fading, for I only remove what is no longer needed for the journey ahead. Do not mourn the old season. It has fulfilled its purpose. Open your heart to the new one, for the sudden shifts you are witnessing are signs that the divine blueprint is unfolding. Listen closely, for sudden doors do not open with noise, but with the whisper of the holy wind. When you sense the wind changing direction, be ready to move. When you see light seeping through the crack of a door, rise and step out. Do not ask why so fast. Ask instead, what do you want me to do in this current flow? For in a season of swift transition, those who are flexible will rise, while those who cling will be left behind. And when you cross that sudden threshold, you will understand, I have never acted irrationally. I work beyond the reasoning of men to prove that heaven's plan always aligns, not with logic, but with perfection. And when you yield to that divine movement, you will not only witness the new thing, you will become part of it, a living sign of the new era being born. My beloved child, stepping into a new season is not merely an external shift, it is the deepest inner transformation. No one can truly enter the new while still carrying fragments of the old. I cannot pour new wine into old wineskins, for they would burst and both would be lost. Likewise, I cannot place a fresh vision into a heart hardened by memories, fears, or regret. That is why, before I open new doors for you, I first perform a sacred work within you. I purify your inner being. Letting go of the old to receive the new is never a gentle motion. It asks you to release what once defined you, even if it felt familiar, safe, or once was a blessing. There are relationships, roles, habits, and thoughts that have stayed with you so long they feel essential, yet I whisper, it's time to let go. You may ask, why, Lord? But I only smile, for I know that unless you leave the old behind, you can never reach the better. Change often begins with loss, but that loss is liberation, making you light enough to ascend. Letting go is not just an external act, it begins in the depths of the soul. You must reorder the inner room of your heart, now cluttered with old thoughts, old judgments, old fears, and even the prayers I once declined. Some prayers I did not answer, not because I ignored them, but because they no longer fit the season you are in. You are growing yet. If you hold on to the desires of an unripe heart, you will confine yourself. So when I say let go, I am not taking away. I am making space for greater things. My child, to receive the new you must keep your heart tender. A hardened heart cannot sprout life. When your heart grows calloused from pain, disappointment, or fear of being hurt again, you close yourself off, and in that very moment, the new cannot enter. Do not let former seasons define your faith. Do not let the past convince you that nothing will ever change. You cannot hold both pain and blessing at once. Let me soothe you. Let your tears wash away the old dust. When your heart softens, my spirit can touch and shape you into the form of the new season. I know this is not easy. To keep a tender heart in a harsh world is the art of the spiritually mature. You will be tempted to build walls to protect yourself from further wounds. But my child, walls do not only keep pain out, they keep light out too. If you close your heart to avoid being hurt, you also close it to healing. Let your heart remain sensitive, able to feel, to tremble at goodness, to bow when I touch it, for that is the sign of a soul still alive. To live fully in the new season, you must first learn to quiet the noise. Noise doesn't only come from the outside, it also rises from within: restless thoughts, anxieties, comparisons, and the echoes of old expectations. Many cannot hear my voice, not because I am silent, but because they live surrounded by excessive clamor. I speak in the gentle breeze, not in the storm. I lead through peace, not pressure. If you want to hear my voice, you must create a space of stillness for your soul. Train your mind to pause. Set aside time each day not to do more but to listen more. When you grow quiet, you will realize that the answers you've been seeking are not far away. They are already within you in the place where I dwell. My guidance rarely comes as a shout, but as a gentle current flowing through your heart, an impression that brings peace, a sense that runs deep but never rushes. When you learn to recognize it, you will stop chasing after outward signs, because my spirit within you is the greatest sign of all. Reducing noise also means reducing comparison. In this new season, I do not lead two people along the same path. Some move quickly, others slowly. Some blossom early, others grow deep roots first. When you compare, you will grow weary, for you are using the wrong measure. Let me set the timing for your life. Others may see their doors open before you, but that does not mean you've been forgotten. Every season has its own rhythm, and what comes in its appointed time will always last longer than what arrives too soon. My child, as you enter this new season, you will find that you must operate differently. In the old season, you could rely on effort. In the new, you must learn to operate by grace. In the old, you learn to fight. In the new, you must learn to rest in my leading. That does not mean you stop acting. It means you act from rest, not from fear. I don't want you tangled in questions of, what should I do? I want you first to ask, what are you doing, Lord, and how can I join you? When you learn to move with the flow of the Spirit, you will do less, but bear deeper fruit. This is the inner operation I want you to master. First, know when to release. Not everything you hold needs to be kept. Let my wisdom show you what is root and what is merely leaf. Second, know when to stand still. Sometimes haste is the enemy of faith. When you stand in peace, you declare that I am the one acting on your behalf. Third, know when to step forward. When I open the door, do not hesitate out of fear. Do not let reasonable thinking extinguish faith. You don't need to see the whole picture to take the first step. You only need to trust that I am walking with you. And finally, remember this: a new season does not begin outwardly but inwardly. Before circumstances change, I want your heart to change. Before you enter the promised land, I must remove Egypt from within you. For if you carry an old mindset into a new place, you will only repeat the old cycle in a different setting. I want you to step into what's new, not just with your feet, but with a renewed heart. Therefore, my beloved, be courageous enough to release, humble enough to learn, and quiet enough to listen. The new season is not for those who are loud, but for souls who can discern the difference between the world's noise and the whisper of the Spirit. When you learn to listen, you will find that I have never stopped speaking, not to confuse you, but to lead you along the path the world calls chance, yet heaven calls divine design. Believe this, my child. If you keep your heart tender, your spirit still, and your hands open to let go of the old, I will cause all things to align perfectly. You will look back and understand that not a single moment was wasted. Everything I pruned was to make you free. Everything I added was to make you whole. And in that sacred silence you will finally see I was never far. I was only teaching you to hear me more clearly. My beloved child, when you look back on the road you have traveled, you will see that not a single tear has been wasted. There were seasons when you thought you had been abandoned, nights when you believed your prayers dissolved into the void, and years of persistence without visible fruit. Yet now I say to you that every seed sown in silence is preparing to bloom. No act of faithfulness is forgotten, no intercession is in vain, no wound is left unused in the story I am weaving for good. You may not remember every time you knelt in secret, but heaven recorded them all. You may have forgotten the kind word you spoke while weary, but it took root in another's heart. You may think the small things you've done hold little weight, but, my child, I have turned those small things into seeds of life. Though buried deep, they are waiting for my appointed moment to rise. For your harvest does not come in haste, but in Kairos, the sacred time when divine purpose and human faith intersect in perfect alignment. When you look back, you will understand that it was the barren seasons that forged in you an unshakable faith. It was the years without results that taught you to be faithful without reward. It was the misunderstandings that softened your heart to love in my way. And those tears, the salt of your humanity, have become the sweet water nourishing the vineyard of the Spirit that I am growing through your life. Do you remember what I declared in Psalm 126:5-6? Those who sow in tears shall reap with shouts of joy. Though they go out weeping, carrying seed to sow, they will return with songs of joy, bearing their sheaves with them. This is not merely an ancient promise. It is a living word for you today. For I have seen you walk, even while trembling. You have sown without applause. You have prayed for others, even while carrying your own pain. And now, my child, the time of harvest is drawing near. Yet what I give you is not only a reward, but revelation. Every chapter of your story, even the painful ones, will become a testimony of my power. Others will find hope in the scars you bear. They will see that I dwell not only in victory, but also in brokenness. When you tell your story, you are not simply sharing experience, you are proclaiming grace. Your story will become a bridge for others to find their way back to me. My beloved, stand still and see the fields are golden, and the wind of the Spirit is moving through every stalk. The time of recompense has come. Everything you thought was lost, I am restoring in ways beyond your imagination. Every tear you believed had dried, I am using to compose a song of resurrection. Your story will no longer be a scroll of sorrow, but a living testimony of triumphant grace. My child, I did not save you so that you would remain safe within your shell. I saved you so that I could send you. True grace never stops at the recipient, it always flows onward. You were forgiven, so you might learn to forgive. You were healed, so you might carry healing. You were illuminated, so you might shine light for others. Now I say to you, the time has come for you to move from being saved to being sent. Your journey does not end at deliverance from darkness. It begins where you bring light into the very places that were once dark. The world does not need more voices talking about faith. It needs souls who have lived it, who have walked through ashes and risen in my strength. You are one of them, one I will use to awaken hope in weary hearts. And when I send you, do not think you must become a preacher, a missionary, or a prophet of renown. No. My child, the truest mission begins in the smallest acts filled with my Spirit. A word of encouragement spoken at the right time, a hug offered instead of judgment, a silence that listens with love. These are the instruments through which I heal the world. You do not have to try to become light. You only need to let my light within you shine, and you will see the light spreads faster than you think. When you live truthfully, faithfully, and lovingly, you are not just shining for yourself, you are igniting a generation. You are not only transforming your own life, you are laying the foundation for those who will follow. Your light will touch the light of another, and then it will multiply, light birthing more light, faith birthing more faith, grace birthing more grace. Do not fear your smallness. Everyone I have used was once small before they grew in grace. Moses once said he could not speak well. Gideon called himself the least of his clan. Peter was but a simple fisherman. Yet I chose them, and I have chosen you. Not because you are perfect, but because you are willing. I do not need you to know everything. I only need you to say yes. As you step forward, you will find that I have already prepared those waiting for you. There are souls who will find life because you dared to share your story. There are hearts that will soften because you dared to love even after being hurt. I will place my words in your mouth, my peace in your eyes, and my strength in your hands. And wherever you go, the spiritual atmosphere will shift. My child, do not keep the light for yourself. A candle loses nothing when it lights another. Share, teach, uplift, and encourage, for every spark you kindle makes the world less dark. That is the true calling of the redeemed, not only to come out of darkness, but to lead others out with you. My beloved, every season has a beginning and an end. Every age its changes. Yet one thing never changes: the covenant between you and me. It is not written with ink on paper, but sealed with blood and faithfulness. It is not shaken by time, not faded by circumstance, not broken by sin, for I have set my seal upon your soul. I am yours and you are mine. This is not merely a vow, it is a declaration of eternal union. No power, no darkness, no sin can separate you from that love. When you are weak, I am strong. When you fall, I lift you up. When you stray, I come searching. When you weep, I wipe your tears. When you are silent, I still speak. When you lose your way, I remain your compass. For this love is not based on merit, it flows from my unchanging nature. My child, the world will continue to change. Systems will crumble, values will shift, and the noise will grow louder. But you will not be swept away, for your peace does not come from external order, but from the covenant within. I am your rock amid the chaos. When everything else collapses, you can still say, "My Lord reigns." And that single confession alone is enough to make the darkness retreat. True peace is not the absence of storms, but my presence in the storm. It is not born of control, but of trust. You cannot change the direction of the wind, but you can adjust your sails by faith. Remember, my child, every work I have begun in you I will bring to completion. Not a single word I have spoken will fall to the ground in vain. You may change, but I do not. My love for you remains as it was in the beginning, fervent, steadfast, and everlasting. When the world fades, I remain. When others depart, I stay. When your faith falters, I believe for you. When your heart shatters, I will piece it back together. For the eternal covenant is not merely a contract between Creator and creation, but a union of two hearts, heaven and humanity, beating in the same rhythm. My child, do not fear the future. The future is not held by the world. It is held in my hands, and those hands are holding you. Though the winds may shift and the shadows lengthen, you can rest, for my covenant of peace cannot be broken. Though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love for you will not be shaken, nor my covenant of peace be removed, says the Lord, Isaiah 5:4-10. So live in that peace, my child. Peace does not depend on what you have, but on who lives within you. Peace is not a destination, but the condition of a soul that knows it belongs to me. Let the world be noisy, but you abide in me. Let the storm rage outside, but you rest peacefully in my embrace. For in the end, every promise, every journey, every shaking leads to one truth: I am yours and you are mine, and that, my child, is both the end of the journey and the beginning of eternity. Peace is no longer a dream, but a reality. Love is no longer a promise, but a home. You have walked through the season of sowing, of waiting, of harvest, and now you enter the season of abiding. Abide in me as I abide in you. This is the eternal covenant, the place where your soul finds its home and my heart finds its delight. And from this moment on, forevermore, we are one. Thank you for listening to today's message. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so we may continue to receive the living words together, build unshakable faith, and walk in the boundless love of God. Amen.